Venerable Texas political reporter Wayne Slater reported on our air last week that Rick Perry's family is urging him to run, and for a lot of candidates, that's a very important factor. We just don't know yet whether or not he is going to run. He hasn't made an announcement. He has not announced that he's going to schedule an announcement of an announcement. But whether or not he ultimately joins the race, there's one thing to understand about the case that Rick Perry will make, and the case that Rick Perry's supporters will make for why he would make a good candidate, and why, by extension, he would make a good president. There's one thing to understand about the case for Rick Perry that is being made so far, and that it looks like will be the basis for his presidential run. One thing to understand about that. It's baloney. This is not a story about Anthony Weiner. This is actual baloney. Every time, the visual aid, every time you hear anybody talk about the Texas miracle and why Rick Perry ought to run for president because Texas is in such great shape under Rick Perry's decade of leadership, I want you to imagine this and remember how stupid I looked holding this. Baloney. If we can talk about Anthony Weiner in part on the strength of him having a funny name for 3 weeks, let this be what you think of when somebody tells you how awesome Rick Perry made the economy of Texas.
You know, proud to be a Texan. I'm proud to be a conservative. Not just because I'm from Texas, because conservatives have won the war of ideals. See, in Texas, you don't have to use your imagination and go, well, what do you think if we tried this conservative principle over here? We've been doing it. We've been doing it, and it's been paying great dividends in our state.
Great dividends. This is the case for Rick Perry for president. The Wall Street Journal lead editorial last week was titled, "The Lone Star Job Surge." Everybody from the Wall Street Journal editorial page to the National Review to everybody else who is encouraging Rick Perry to run is making this case that Texas has this awesome economy. Yes, the national economy may be in bad shape, but Texas has an awesome economy thanks to Rick Perry's 10 years in charge there. After Rick Perry's 10 years in charge in Texas, Texas is a lot of things, but a place where economically everything has worked out awesome? Baloney. Look at the unemployment situation in Texas right now. Texas is in the middle of the pack in the country in terms of its unemployment rate. 23 states across the country have a lower unemployment rate than Texas does. And that stubborn unemployment rate in the Lone Star State has been going up as the rest of the country's has recently been coming down. And from the recession until now, wages in the country have gone up 5%. In Texas, they've gone up 0.6%. In California, since the recession, wages have gone up 9.3%. In New York, it was 2.5%. Again, nationally, it was 5%. In Texas, it was 0.6%. In terms of the jobs that Texans do have, Texas has the highest proportion in the country of people making minimum wage and the highest number of people earning minimum wage of anywhere in the country. Nationally, in median terms, American workers are making $12.50 per hour. That's the median wage nationally. In Texas, the median wage is $11.20 per hour. And, by the way, you don't have health insurance. Texas has the highest proportion of uninsured people in the entire country. More than 1 in 4 Texans do not have health insurance. That's the worst of anywhere in the country. And in the face of that, Governor Perry wants to opt out of Medicaid, which is the way you are supposed to get insurance if you are disabled or poor. And the Texas legislature, with Governor Perry's support, just passed a bill to kill Medicare. What Paul Ryan wants to do at the national level, Rick Perry and Texas Republicans are trying to do at the state level. They are trying to privatize Medicare and thereby get rid of it. So in Texas, the unemployment rate's been going up. It has the most people in the country who are making only minimum wage. People overall are making less money than the rest of the country. You are more likely in Texas to have no health insurance than anywhere else in the country, and Rick Perry is working double time to make that even worse. And as Rick Perry travels around to all of these "We Love You, Rick Perry" dinners, he keeps talking about how the federal government can really learn a thing or two about the economy from a place like Texas. Texas right now has the 4th worst budget deficit in the country. That's the fiscal discipline, the conservative principles that Rick Perry has been bragging on. The 4th worst budget deficit in the country at the state level. The only states that have a worse budget deficit are California, New Jersey, and New York. I know what you're thinking. Come on, come on. Texas is such a huge state. It has such a huge economy. Put it in context, Maddow. Be fair. Okay. As a percentage of the state's budget, rather than just in absolute terms. As a percentage of the state's budget, Texas has the 5th worst budget shortfall in the country. But But the single most important thing to know about Rick Perry, the thing that motivated us to go out in a giant hailstorm today to buy this enormous baloney, is this. On the same day that Governor Perry asked for stimulus funds, he set up a petition online titled, "No Government Bailouts." He wrote on his Rick Perry blog, "Join our fight and add your voice to a growing list of several thousand Americans who are fed up with this irresponsible spending that threatens our future." That was on the day he endorsed the federal check for $6.4 billion in stimulus money that he was screaming from the rooftops he would never accept. The same day. Join our fight. The day that he's accepting the money. Rick Perry had previously advocated that Texas reject the stimulus money because he said, we can take care of ourselves. In 2009, Rick Perry screamed from the rooftops that he would not accept stimulus money. He then took the stimulus money, and that was the money that filled in 97% of Texas's budget shortfall that year. We've been balancing our budget in Texas. Oh, really? According to the National Conference on State Legislatures, no state was more dependent on stimulus funds than Texas under Rick Perry. Maybe Rick Perry will be the Republican antidote to the Mitt Romney frontrunner blues. But the case for Rick Perry is going to have to be something other than the awesome, conservative, no federal money Rick Perry economy of Texas. I know it's not a story about a guy named Wiener, but it's just as much baloney. By all counts, Governor Perry has many charming qualities. They are going to have to pick something else for him to run on. The good news for Texans in all this, though, is that after headlines like this, look at this, ran in the Houston Chronicle today, Perry flirts with White House run as bills pile up. After that ran in the Houston Chronicle today, the governor finally did make it back to his office today to stop flirting with the presidency long enough to actually sign some of those 1,170 bills, which have just been sitting there waiting for the governor to come back home.